Welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I am your host, Mr. U, in studio with a speaker, best-selling author, women's empowerment coach. She does so many different things. Renaissance woman, if you will. Mairin Moore Cane is in the house. Mairin, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. I love that you're here. Before we get into what you've been doing, which is awesome stuff. If you're watching and listening for the very, very first time, first off, let's make us part of your weeks. You're getting tongue tied, excuse me. If you're watching this for the very first time, we are definitely live on YouTube and Facebook, as well as all listening platforms, probably within the next 90 minutes or so after the show wraps. So thanks again for making us part of your week. We have 4 shows on our brand. Excited for you to be a part of this one. Mairin Moore Cane's in the house. So let me ask you a question real quick before we get into the awesome stuff that you're doing right now. Kind of give me some tidbits into your childhood. What's some key factors that got you from where you were then to where you are today, the woman you've become today? So kind of give me some little key factors, some connective tissue, if you will, how you got from where you were then to where you are now.
You know, I think that life is it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, we grow from these little kids to who we are now as adults, and who we were then is not who we are now. And my story is very much that same thing. As a little girl, I was a very quiet, timid, very analytical. In one of my homes, I kind of had to keep the peace, and I had to be the one to take care of things. And I was kind of I was the oldest. And so, I was always very much trying to show up as the responsible one and the one that made everybody proud. And, the one that, that really was there to really, what I felt in my responsibility was to show up as the family, ironically enough. And then in another home, because my parents were split up, I was the visiting child where, I always sought out the love. I always sought out to fit in. And unfortunately, then I didn't feel that. And I was very insecure, very cautious of how I showed up, very quiet. And unfortunately, there were some things in that home that I didn't just quite sit with me in a place that made me feel safe. And that's a whole other story we could go into. I only think we have 30 minutes, but let's just say I was not who I was then. And I spent many, many years. Actually, I'm getting ready to have my TED Talk about this, ironically enough.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's coming up. I'm getting excited. I just had my last coaching call yesterday, and it was like, but you grow into who you are, and things happen to you, and they happen for you in a way. I think that you have to learn to accept. Some of it is choosing forgiveness. Some of it is choosing to grow past. Some of it is choosing really just to become the different person from that situation. And that's really my scenario, my story. I went from a very quiet child, like I said, to be honest with you, when you hold things in, the body holds the score. And I got very sick and excuse me, I kept seeing symptoms for a few years, but I thought they were always isolated. And then I got very sick in 2020 and went from running 9 miles a day to 90 pounds bedridden and losing my life with chronic illness. And I will tell you, I don't quite know what caused a lot of that. I'm losing my voice, so forgive me. But I, when you hold a lot of that in, your body tends to show up in other places to say, you can no longer be quiet about this, and you can no longer ignore this because this is who you are. And so I really had to face and show up differently and learn to speak differently and advocate for myself and learn who I really was on the outside of what other people were. So here I am. I show up now. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I'm a coach for women who really need to use their own voice and really show up in their own times of growth and transition.
Well, we're definitely going to get into what's behind you in a little bit. I want to ask you a question about that TED Talk because I'm intrigued by that. I don't want you to spend a lot of time on it because you're developing things and working things out. I just have one question that the analytical person in me has to ask. In effect, how do you do a TED Talk? Because for me, I'm the kind of person that I need to have some bullet points. Having some slides wouldn't hurt me.
Okay.
Tend to go off into tangents sometimes because they're good tangents, but they're still tangents nonetheless. And take me off course a little bit, even though it's always connected all the time. But
Yeah.
what they, how they preface this is, are you memorizing 60 minutes of information?
No, in
What,
fact,
what?
A TED Talk is basically classified as, what is it? I mean, there's really, they say no more than 18 minutes. So there's that, you're freed from stage at that point at 18 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
They do say that you want what is the one concept or idea that you can introduce to the world that is, whether it be ingenuitive or something that's just a key to the world that you can share that that helps change and leave them different. And really that's just it. It's your stories, it's your why, it's what you believe in, it's what your passions are. Sometimes maybe it's your work. For me, it's my story, it's my life. And for me, it was sharing that you cannot hold those voices in. You have to show up in who you are, or they come out in other areas. And sometimes it's illness, sometimes it's other things.
Yeah, just basically telling your story. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
18 minutes is that's doable.
It's passion. I mean, it's really,
Yeah.
you got to know your key points a little bit. You got to have some backup statistics to follow it up. But, in reality, it's just sharing your story and sharing why you want to have other people know it so that you can help them.
Right, I love that. That's going to take you to a whole different level in your business. I'm quite sure. I'm glad I caught you before you got too famous. So I'm glad you got on before all that stuff happened. I'm so grateful that you didn't do this after your TED Talk. I'm like, she's not gonna have time for this.
I'll say one thing. That is the one thing that I'm grateful for every opportunity I have. And, I hope, and I'll bookmark this because let's say I do go big, as they all say, right? I think it's just every opportunity that God gives you. And I'm grateful for everything. And I hope to never, ever change from that.
I love it, man. I love it. I'm gonna hold you accountable. I got your number now, so I'm definitely gonna hold you accountable for sure. But you've been featured in CEO Weekly, USA Today, Women's World. You've been put out there as a leadership model, along with all the authenticity that I personally have seen come out of you.
Thank you.
Tell me why you. I'm gonna rephrase that question. Tell me what you've been experiencing as being a women's coach and as a leader, and good and bad. I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly, because people come on our show, and I've been talking a lot about people who've been on our show before in the past. I'm speaking a lot in past references. I don't know why, but people come on our show and they want to tell me all the highlights. I'm like, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I want to get into more of the Grammy part because my listeners want to hear that. They want to understand, what they're in right now doesn't have to be where they stay.
Yeah.
And it's real, it's authentic to be able to have. The social media world shows you the highlights. You don't see the work. You don't see the blood, sweat, and tears, so to speak. You don't see that kind of stuff. Or you see the highlight. This is where I am. How'd you get here? Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. So
yeah.
I love you to kind of share from a perspective as a women's empowerment coach, as a leader who leads with presence first. Tell me some of the good and the bad and the ugly about that. I want to keep it real for our audience. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. Life is messy. Let's be real. Okay.
Absolutely.
But I think it's through our messes that we grow and we get stronger with, if we're paying attention to it. And if we're actually having gratitude for that enough to grow through it. One of my hardest moments being in its messiest was, like I said, I was a high performer. I was hustling and doing my work, and I was showing up for all of these other people. I've been married for 26 years. I was showing up for my husband and my children. Thank you. It's probably one of my biggest accomplishments, and I absolutely love it every day. But I will tell you that, in your messiest seasons, you question everything. And my messy season was when I was sick. And I went from thinking I was pleasing everybody and I was happy with my life, which we all think that we're in one place until we're challenged. And when you're sitting on the bathroom floor, I'm diagnosed with gastroparesis, which means that my gastro system is paralyzed 70%. I also have some nervous system damage, which means that all the autonomic things that your body does. So like your breathing, your temperature regulation, your heart rate, your digestion, those don't function in the same way for me. So
Hmm.
my blood pressure typically can be normal, and then all of a sudden it's 200 over 160, and it's unmanageable. So I went through a time where I was anything even remotely stressful could put me into a risk of cardiac arrest or any type of
Wow.
stroke. So I mean, I really had to isolate myself. Like I said, when I was in bed for 3 years, I was in bed. And my kids would, like, they always had to kind of tiptoe because God forbid we spook mom. We didn't want her to get sick. These were kids who also, they're now 21 and 16, but they had to see some of my worst moments. And they were
Hmm.
also the ones who had to call the ambulance many a time for me. And
Wow.
messy moments, scary moments.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, to be very frank with you, I tried to control it for like 2 years. I kept, you know, disagreeing with the doctors. No, we got to find more answers. No, this is the, and I finally had to come to the conclusion that, so this is my life. And what do you do with this life? Because whether it's 5 minutes, 5 years, 50 years left, I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
In reality, what are you going to show up as, and who's watching you? And my kids were watching, and I knew, I still get choked up to this. Um,
It's okay. Go ahead.
I knew that I didn't want my kids to ever give up, and I knew they were
That's
watching
beautiful.
everything. And there was many a nights where I would have rather given up. When you're vomiting all day, every day, and you have nothing left in you.
Mm.
There's some pretty scary moments that you go through, but I made a determination really one night that I was done. And I literally was on my hands and knees, crawling back to bed. My husband had just fallen asleep. And not to get too religious there, I always had this sermon on, who's now my pastor at my church. And I was listening to him on the TV. And I said, God, I can't do this anymore. I really can't. And I give up. I give it to you, because whatever I have left, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I just know that my kids are watching, and if I'm going to leave anything, I'm not going to leave it in a mess. And for the first time, I decided I was no longer going to do it to please anybody else but myself, God, and my family, my kids. I wanted my kids to know. And so I decided that if I got up off that floor that night, that I was going to start being more vocal with my voice of what I believed, what my values were, and how I wanted to leave a legacy. And that started with, I was writing a journal, which then led to my book. And in fact, when I did hire my publisher and coach, I said, this is not to do business. This is to leave a legacy. And there were a few times, quite frankly, before I published the book, that they kept trying to spin me into writing a business. And I said, this is not what this is about. And my podcast, all of it now, it's for those, in all honesty, who are ready to give up, who need somebody to be in their ear like I need somebody to be in mine, and keep going. I need other people
I
to
love this.
know the same thing. Mhm.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. So many places I want to go up. I'm like, well, first off, thanks for being so transparent. Number one, I'm glad that you're doing a lot better now. I don't know what every day looks like for you now, but I'm still believing God for your healing, despite
Thank you.
the
Yeah.
years and the things that you've seen. I believe that Jesus took care of that for us on the cross. So that's kind of where I'm at with
Amen.
that, and that's I ain't going back on that, even when that stuff happens to me, and it does. I want to talk to you about the hustle part.
Yeah.
I'm from a part of the world. A lot of people who know me know where I'm from. They know where my hometown is. Hustle is in the vernacular. It's baked in quite literally.
Yeah.
You talk about releasing the hustle. Tell me
Mhm.
why you think the hustle even started for you, and how did you actually go about releasing it? Because people who are watching, listening to the show right now are hustling as we speak. A
Yeah.
lot of people who are, when I first started in 2020 with the show, people who are listeners, they were all doing something. They would tell me that in the comments. I'm doing the
Yeah.
laundry. I'm jogging, homeschooling the kids. I'm doing X, Y, Z. Hustling while listening to this show.
Yeah.
Tell me what
I,
hustle means for you and how you came about releasing it. Go ahead.
so here's the thing. I think that we have this determination or title of what hustle is. And in reality, hustle, you can still hustle and still show up differently. And that's one thing I had to
Okay.
learn is, and I think maybe that's what the beautiful thing of what COVID and quarantine did. I mean, in reality, it really messed with a lot of things, but it did one thing. It taught us that we can slow down enough and not have to maybe necessarily show up in a response of a reaction or fear that involved having to do something in such a way to succeed. I think that you can still show up and hustle in a way of doing all the amazing things that we want to do in life. To me, hustle is I'm going to show up and do and be my very best, and I'm going to prove every bit of what I am capable of in life. I am going to make it happen as much as I am given every opportunity. But that doesn't mean I have to be anxiety ridden. I don't have to be stressed to the max and running to the point where our bodies are responding in fear and anxiety and worn out. I think that there's other ways that we can show up to still do all of the amazing things that we can and still be the hustler that we are.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this. So tell me, because you deal with leadership so much, and I love talking to people who deal with leadership, but I always have to kind of go a little bit deeper. I have to,
Yeah.
because I really believe in leading yourself first. Show me. Well, this is a two-part question for you, Mairin.
Okay.
Where have you seen authentic leadership, and where has it been missing in your life and experience?
Mm. I think authentic leadership, I actually just did a podcast and I just literally just hopped over from doing one. There was a gentleman I
Really,
had on.
Mairin? I know you're busy. I get it. We already established that you're big time.
No,
I
no, no,
get
no, no.
it.
So actually, I would love to introduce you because I think that he had a fantastic thought to this. His name was Stephen Scoggins. You'll hear him on my podcast coming up soon once it publishes. But he did a fantastic and beautiful way of really explaining what leadership is. And really, we cannot lead from who we used to be or where we think we're supposed to be or from an area of control. Leadership really is
Yeah.
showing up right here, right now, being the best kind of leader that we are. And I think that that is the kind of leadership that needs to show up a little bit better. I actually forgot your question, but that's really what,
I can help you with that. No worries.
Good.
It was a two-part question, kind of long. My apologies. The first one was, where have you seen authentic leadership in your life and experience, and where have you not seen it? Where has it been missing in your life and experience?
In my own life, I've seen it in very different ways. I saw it in my mom. She was a single mom, and she just showed up doing the best she could to be a great mom.
Oh wow.
I Yeah, I cannot fault her for her faults because we're all just doing what we know best in life
Yeah.
in the time that we have. My grandmother, she was another one as an entrepreneur. She had a coffee shop. In fact, my mom almost had me in the coffee shop as an entrepreneur. She was my biggest hero and probably my biggest she was who I epitomized of what kind of person I wanted to be as a leader. She was an entrepreneur and she never let anything stop her. I never heard her complain ever about having to go to her shop 7 days a week.
Wow.
She loved her work. And I never heard about financial complaints from her. She always made it happen. She taught me so much about manners and professionalism and how to show up in customer service, even
That's
as little
good.
as, as being as little of, 3, 4 years old, she had greeting cards at the back of shop and she was organizing or having me organize for him, or she taught me how to count the money backwards so that the customer actually physically knew that you were giving the right money back. I mean, she was all about having integrity in her work. So those would be the best kind of leaders. And then I've experienced those that are not. And unfortunately, in our own leadership journeys, we have to find them out on our own way. Unfortunately, I won't throw them deeply under the bus, but I have had a few partners in other businesses that showed me what kind of leader I didn't want to be. Loyalty.
Yeah.
And how much I put my heart and my soul into the people that I work with, and I will never ever lose that integrity of that. And unfortunately, some people don't do that, and so you can only pray that they grow further into their leadership.
I love that. I love that. When I say root, realign, and rise, what comes to, oh wow, look, it's right there.
That's yeah.
What comes to mind for you now at this stage of your life and your journey?
I think in everything we do, roots, it's who we are. It's what our values are, our integrity, where we're coming from. Always keeping that as our base. Realignment, we will always have resilience that we will have to face, growth lessons in which we'll have to realign in. And it really matters how we show up in that, not thinking about the past, what we could have done different, not thinking about where we should be instead, or really just understanding that we are in a present season of becoming more of who we are right here,
Mm,
right now, realigning in that moment in order to rise.
I love that. Somebody's watching right now probably believes in the myth of being a superwoman.
I
What
hope
would you
so.
say to them? What would you say to them?
Uh, I think we all have it in us. I am grateful for the opportunities I have to be able to use. Maybe it's a platform, maybe it's a skill, maybe it's just an opportunity. But I think that if we're really getting deep into it, I think God, higher being, whatever you want to call it. I think we are given certain talents, certain skills, certain opportunities in life. And it's how we show up in those. And it's my job, my belief to show up to help others. It's what I love to do. And it gives me the greatest joy to do it. It gives me purpose to live every day.
You have that every day.
Yeah.
You're a big bright light in this place, so we definitely want you around. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
We got so many areas where we connect and we are weaved into networks and circles and communities and things like that. But it feels like sometimes we don't learn from history. We go on and we talk about things, we teach, and the generations ahead of us have no idea that we learned anything because they can't see it in our life.
Yeah.
Tell me the number one thing that you learned from grandma that you are still doing today. It's the thing. It's, you know what? If I don't remember anything else, I can't forget this. What's that?
You know, wow, there's so many. To be honest with you, I think just showing up with a smile every day. I
Hmm.
think that is the one thing she never gave up. Um, she always taught me to serve with a smile. And I remember very vividly there were Christmases that we would be sitting at her shop wrapping gifts for people who some couldn't afford. And it was the one gift that they could give. And there were others that brought in just, they were trying to save, their time and just here, wrap our gifts for us. And I remember one year we were exhausted and it must have been 11 o'clock at night. And this person had come in and we were just locking the door. And they said, please, it's all I have. And I just need one. And there was just something different about this customer. And I called her nanny. My nanny said, just come in. I'll give you a cup of coffee. We'll get you through the night. And what never fully came out, what we were able to get from it was that this person was reuniting with a family member. And that was the only thing they could afford. And it was probably
Wow.
going to be the most life-changing meeting for this person, at least a memory that they would always hold. And what I got from that truly is no matter what's going on in life, to show up with a smile, because it's not always about us. It's always about around us. And I think we often go through life so much in this hurry and this hustle and in this culture that we pass people in, the crosswalks. We don't even make eye contact with them anymore. And in reality, we really need community. And I think it's being lost so much. And I look at my children and future generations you were talking about who don't even know until it's just there or it's not. In reality, it's how we show up today to serve for them. And I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for this person who brought in that present. And I think it's one of the things that we need to really emphasize for us all to show up in. We all have stories, we all have things, and it's not just for us, it's for our whole community.
Anybody that's following your work, they're probably going to hear these three words: the unseen load.
Mm.
Talk to us about how you built that framework. I know it came from some tough times dealing with chronic illness and such, but kind of talk to me about where the unseen load came from and what are you seeing take place in people's lives now because of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the unseen loads, I mean, they're the things that no one wants to talk about, and some may feel like they're nothing, they're small, but we all carry them, and over time they carry this heavy burden that, it's kind of like, when you hold up the glass of water for so long, it may be the slightest glass of water that it's not so heavy, but when you hold it up long enough, it actually becomes heavy. And those loads actually that we're holding inside of us, they actually do matter, whether they feel heavy at the time or not. And how we hold ourselves up with that load is what really matters and how we handle that. Um, there are things and practices that I always recommend, starting your day with gratitude, showing up, asking yourself, what is one thing that you can release that's really doesn't have to be carried so heavy that day, writing things down. What keeps you grounded, things. I've got practices for burnout, taking those deep breaths and not just really sitting in your 5 minutes of meditation or prayer. There are other things that you can do within it. I journal a lot. I was actually just talking to somebody recently about this, that, it's just not forcing the things in how we're journaling or forcing ourselves to do the practices of. It's showing up presently in them and allowing yourself to be heard. Those unseen loads really are screaming inside of us, and they're very hard to carry. They're very heavy to carry if we don't work them out.
Absolutely. Love that. All right. This should be my last question, hopefully. Depends on
Okay.
how you answer it.
Oh, I feel like pressure's on.
The pressure is on. This is always a tough question, but I always ask this for most of the guests. Sometimes I'll talk it in and out, but what's the area in your life right now that you believe is least aligned with your values? Does that make sense?
Ooh, least aligned.
Least aligned. That means, you know what? I need to work on this. This is not where I want to be.
Yeah.
That-
I definitely hold myself in boundaries. I am a what you see is what you get. I show up in honesty. I show up in my values. If I see something that I don't like, I'm very much vocal to say, I think we can do this better. I don't think that you have to show up in a violent, angry way, but you can offer different ways to do things. I don't believe in ego. I cannot stand something or somebody who has an ego, because I think that we all have room to grow further in. And I boundary myself for my health now. So that is one thing I really, really put a stake in the claim on, that we all should be doing. I don't like we go back to the hustle culture. I don't believe that we have to do it the same old harmful way to our bodies, to our nervous systems, to our minds,
Yeah.
and to our spirits.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ah, so much here. If you don't mind, just take the next 2 minutes or so to close our show out for us. Speak to the people. Whatever you want to share that's on your heart. You don't have to share anything. You don't have to reshare anything. This could just be where you are right now, what you may want to say to viewers and listeners who are watching. And then also, in whatever order you want to do that, let them know where they can find you and your work. You can do it in reverse order, but take this time right now to let folks know where they can find you. And of course, share whatever's on your heart. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. I think if there's anything I can leave with your audience, it's that we all have something that we're going through. The world is going through a lot right now. And be kind to yourself, be gracious to yourself, and know that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have everything in control. And you certainly do not have to show up perfect in order to lead for yourself, for others. Be kind and know that we're still becoming something more, where you're just in the season of really becoming of who that is and what that is for you. As far as where you can find me, I would love to connect with anybody. I'm at MairinMooreCane.com or any of the socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram at Mairin Moore Cane.
Thank you very much. Best-selling author, speaker, women's empowerment coach, and helps women root, realign, and rise. Mairin Moore Cane. Thank you again for your time and for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
My pleasure. That's Mairin. I'm Mr. Yu. We're out. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching and listening.